Hello everybody! So how good is TrueNAS at handling catastrophic failure? This is Stef from Samayas and welcome to my channel. Well, me as a young guy, I've probably seen it all. Or maybe not just yet. So in general, when people are talking about NAS systems and resilience, everybody is concentrated on a hard disk. Is your system RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, etc.? Well, granted, and especially for those kind of physical hard disks with moving parts, that is a frequent part that fails. However, that isn't all. In 2019, I had a Synology 8-bay NAS system, and I thought I did everything right. I had 8 disks in RAID 5. And next to that, in that Synology, there was also a PCIe device with 2 SATA M.2 drives for read and write cache. Everything was fine until one day it wasn't. Somehow, the motherboard failed, and of course, the warranty was long gone. And so I thought to myself, well, I'll get the next gen 8 version NAS drive of Synology and everything will work, right? Unfortunately, by that time, the newer system migrated to an onboard M.2 NVMe drive extension for read and write cache. And however, the older PCIe card wasn't supported anymore. And the way Synology built their system was that the RAID 5 partition couldn't be recovered without the read and write caches. Synology support was quite helpful, however, in the end, they couldn't fix it. So in the end, even though I had a RAID 5, I lost everything on those drives and on that system. Unfortunately, that was a hard lesson to learn. Thankfully, I did already have a backup system on another site who was synced, but that's substance for another video. Now, fast forward to 2024. There I decided I was fed up with Synology, and I first bought a tie-in 1U server with 12 drives. On there, I did an install of TrueNAS and did the whole configuration, and I transferred over all of my files from my Synology to my new TrueNAS system. And as I've already done a previous video about this tie-in server, unfortunately for me, the 1U was really loud. So in the end, I ended up getting a Dell R730 2U system, also with 12 drives. So 2 completely different systems with different hardwares. I first reinstalled TrueNAS to be sure that all drivers were correctly installed. Then I thought I would have had to retransfer everything from my original Synology, since I didn't have any spare drives, back to the new TrueNAS. But, ho ho ho, that was a good surprise. After simply plugging in the disks and then importing the previous spools, all data was there again. No need to retransfer all files. So TrueNAS is a lot more flexible than Synology was. Now I'm not really trying to blame Synology though. I'm rather trying to point at the flexibility that you need when you're confronted with a catastrophic system failure, and what you might need to transfer to a new system so that everything works. So, in here, I'll do a full reinstall and recover of a previous pool. So let's dig in. So now I'm starting a TrueNAS installation 25.04. And I'll choose the first install or upgrade option. And now I need to choose my boot drive. And since it's containing previous TrueNASs, I'm going to override everything. So I'll select it and I click on OK. And it asks me whether or not I want to remove everything on that drive. And so I confirm. And here I need to choose whether or not I'm going to use an administrative user or configure through web UI. And I'm going to choose administrative user. It's asking me for a password. And the disk is being formatted. And the installation has succeeded pretty fast. And now it's rebooting. And I'll choose to reboot. And now it's restarting in version 25.04. And the installation is successful. And now we can connect to its website to configure things. And now, after install, the first thing I'm going to do is reconfigure the networking. So we go first for networking interface. And here on this system, I have two Ethernet connectors, two SFP plus ports, and currently there's only one SFP plus inserted. And currently it's configured as DHCP. Now in general, it's always a good thing on a server to have a fixed IP address. However, I prefer to be using DHCP using static leases on my firewall or DHCP server. That way, the server still automatically receives an IP address and I have a centralized location of which server or service is using which IP. So let's dig in. Now for simplicity, I'll disable IPv4, and then if you're paying attention, you don't really have another place where to put the IP address. Here, the location to define a fixed IP address is in the alias part. And if you go into alias, you need to give an IP address 192.168.150.182/24, which is a subnet of 24. And I click OK. And then I need to save. After having saved it, you can already see it in alias and you can still see the DHCP server. And the first thing you need to do is to press A to apply the settings, and you can test whether or not it works. And then finally, if it's working, you can press P to save your configuration to a permanent situation. So I'll press P, and now my IP address has become fixed. And now, compared to previous TrueNAS installations, in the past, the default username for logging in was admin. However, if you now do an install for TrueNAS 2504, the admin username is TrueNAS_admin and the password you previously specified. So TrueNAS_admin, and I'm connected with the newly installed TrueNAS 2504. Now, if from my dashboard I go to my storage and first I go to disks, I can see I have 12 disks of 465 gigabytes, which were from a previous TrueNAS installation. Suppose you have your hardware and your motherboard is broken or whatever, and your TrueNAS disks are still in RAID Z something, which you previously configured. Well, then you can take all of those disks from a previous system, simply re-input them in a new system, and then first of all, it detects them. If you go back to storage, instead of creating a new pool and scratching everything, especially if there's some important information on, you can just go to import pools. And then I can see I have a data pool, and depending on whether or not that data pool is encrypted or not, in this situation it isn't, I can simply choose and import a pool. That might take a while. And now I recovered my fully previously created data pool. And so my previously quote-unquote failed system, just by putting all the disks in a new system, or reinstalling like here and starting from scratch, I can recover everything. If I now go to my datasets, well, previously I had an apps, I had files, I had home, etc. However, if I look at my storage in the past, I created a Redis app and I created a Windows Server VM, and even though the physical storage is still there, if I go to my apps, the app isn't there anymore, but I can repoint to it and recover data which is located. And so of course, under instances, you need to reselect a pool and some bridging interface, an IP address, and afterwards you can create your new, and then afterwards you can recreate your new VM or instance based on the previous disk which already exists. Now in C, in our TrueNAS, if we go back to our storage, where we have an overview of our existing pools, where we can create a new pool, at no time is there any encryption. So if we have a quick look at creating a new pool, well, we first have a name, then we need to choose our data, then we might choose an optional log, an optional spare, an optional cache, an optional metadata, an optional dedup, and finally review, and at no time can we choose to encrypt. Now if we go to datasets, that's another story. We first created our basic data pool, which was unencrypted, but which can be encrypted. And let's say I want to create a new dataset. Out of the box, if you don't go to advanced, well, everything is just inherited from the main dataset. we have to go to the advanced options to see the encryption options. As long as you stay inherited, everything will be inherited and you don't need to do. If the dataset on top is already encrypted, this will just inherit and will be encrypted in the same way. It's only when we flag the non-inherited way that we really see the options or the first time we create a dataset. And here we have two distinct choices. Either we choose an encryption key or a passphrase. If we choose an encryption key, TrueNAS manages everything for us. The data is still encrypted on the disk, but TrueNAS handles those keys. And on every reboot, automatically, TrueNAS will unencrypt all datasets and everything will be immediately accessible. If however you go to our passphrase, well, that's whatever you want, and TrueNAS has no knowledge whatsoever of that. But that also implies that on each reboot, it's your responsibility to re-unencrypt those datasets. In the second scenario, if we have a catastrophic failure, there's no problem, because since we already were unencrypting it ourselves, we can do it again. In the first scenario, however, the encryption keys are located in TrueNAS, and it's our responsibility to be sure that we have a copy of those keys. Otherwise, even though if we can import our pool, we won't be able to unlock those datasets. Now I have created one encrypted datasets to be sure that TrueNAS has keys. In order to back up those keys, we need to go to System and then General Settings, and once we're in General Settings, we can choose Manage Configuration, and here we simply download the configuration. And here, on top of downloading the configuration, we have the option to export our password secret seeds, which we will need in case of catastrophic failure. Every time we upgrade a TrueNAS, the wizard also first always asks us to export the potential secret seeds to be safe in case of failure. So now here, we'll save them. And now he created a tar and a quick look inside the file. First, we have our full TrueNAS configuration. And second, we have the secret keys, which we need. Now, we've just seen how we can back up our files. Depending on how catastrophic your system was and how you're going to replace it by a new system, you might decide to just import part of those disks, or you might decide that you have a copy conform of your previous server and you want everything as is. Well, in the same location, next to our download, we can simply choose to upload the previously saved configuration and do a full system restore. And that, depending on your scenario, might be the best way forward. But as always, that depends. So importing drives in a new system suddenly is a lot easier. Now in this example, I only imported normal drives, since this system doesn't have any read or write caches. However, if you are confronted to it, the read cache is optional and won't have a lot of impact. Depending on how your system crashes, however, your write log might be more impactful. And potentially an automatic import might not just work, but you might have to do it manually by specifically overriding the write cache. If you guys enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell sign, or leave a comment down below.